The following is a reading from Ascend from Darkness, the first book in a series of 5, adapting the Call of Duty Zombies Ethos storyline. If you would like to read the entirety of the book, follow the links in the description. The cover artwork was provided by Grimstein. Check the description for a link to her Twitter. Chapter 3, Revelations. Cafeteria. The Giant. Deriza. Near Breslau. Dr. Edward Richtofen. November 23rd, 1939. Leberwurst again. They called it a specialty, but Edward knew it was the only edible dish these chefs for hire could create. Budget cuts are nothing new in the field of science, but times are especially desperate for Group 935. But as long as Edward could continue his work, his passion, he could suffer this insufferable meal. Edward plucked a handful of walnuts from a woven basket at the end of the cafeteria line, before entering the larger seating area. Richtofen could see Dr. Porter eating alone at one table, with Dr. Maxis nowhere in sight. Dr. Maxis had been skipping lunch for the past several weeks to seclude himself in his office. Edward believed Ludwig's melancholic demeanor had been caused by Hilda's death. Following the contentious Test 163, Maxis deferred his own place in matter transference research to Dr. Schuster. Edward did not mind this change, however. Toiling away in the labs by Schuster's side reminded Richtofen of much simpler days at Heidelberg, sneaking to the campus laboratories after hours and performing unorthodox dissections. Schuster never quite approved of their actions, yet he always followed Edward. From across the cafeteria, Richtofen met eyes with an apprehensive Schuster, who was waving his hands in the air and trying to grab his attention. When the scientist across the table from Schuster turned to face Richtofen, he came to understand why. Dr. Groff grinned as Richtofen approached. He had another victim to subject to his theories on underwater cities and ancient astronauts.
Dr. Richtofen, come join us. I was just discussing my field research with Dr. Schuster.
Dr. Schuster looked to his brother in science, muttering,
"A discussion usually has at least 2 participants. This is more of a lecture. You're free to chime in any time, Doctor."
Groff scooted aside to allow Richtofen to sit down. Dr. Schuster mumbled as he pressed his fork into the Leberwurst.
"If I could get a word in."
Groff spoke with unfounded confidence.
"Anyhow, so nice of you to join us, Richtofen. Schuster and I had thought you would not be coming at all."
Edward took a seat across from Schuster, also ensuring that there was nearly a foot of distance between himself and Groff on the bench.
"I was adding a few minor touches to the Wunderwaffe prototype before I begin tests tomorrow morning. Still working on that infernal contraption? I thought you began work in September, and you have not even created a prototype. When do you suppose the second iteration will be complete then, 1954?
Crossed with Groff's rude line of questioning, Schuster interjected.
"Dr. Richtofen does not have the luxury of time that you have, Dr. Groff. Between our work with the MTD and Maxis's budget cuts, there's little time nor resources for pet projects without personal investment. How about your research on Vril, Dr. Groff? What has that produced?" "Vril has not been utilized by any human before. Only the ancient Vril knew of its true healing properties. Recreating its power could elevate the human race to a higher plane. Think of the power we could hold if we wielded the power of the ancients. Vril is infinitely more complex than Dr. Richtofen's weapon."
Dr. Richtofen placed his fork back onto the plate, daring not to make eye contact with Groff.
"The Glocka is not simply for weapons like the Wunderwaffe. It is so much more than that. With its power, I have produced a defensive infrastructure. Oh, well, it will be one. Once it is perfected. After the incident with the MTD Test 163 and the other creatures created as a byproduct of 115 testing, I have taken it upon myself to design a defense system should these beings ever outnumber us. The shield will protect Deriza in the event of an outbreak. I do not understand Maxis's fascination with controlling these monsters. What purpose do they serve? They are only a liability."
The table sat silent for but a few moments, Groff's expression turning from vexation to a smug grin.
"I know exactly what he intends."
Schuster did not look from his tray, taking a bite of the cold flesh.
"I am sure this will be enlightening."
Ignoring the snide remarks, Groff continued.
"Dr. Maxis has a deal in the works which could increase Group 935's budget exponentially. and he has been keeping it under wraps for longer than we may ever know. He is seeking to create a partnership between Group 935 and the Nazi Party. The writing has been on the wall for quite some time. Schuster displayed a disgusted grimace. Richtofen put his fork down to try and comprehend what he had just been told. Do you know how ridiculous you sound sometimes, Dr. Groff? We have some of the greatest scientists in the world at our disposal. And have you forgotten our maxim? To improve the human condition. Not to assist some political idealists on their warmongering Führer. In my time working with Dr. Maxis these past years, he has never seemed to be a man to stoop so low. There's no way Group 935 will ever associate with the Nazi Party. End of discussion. I sound ridiculous. Believe it or not, Dr. Richtofen, I have evidence. Do either of you have any idea of where Dr. Maxis is right now? Dr. Groff looked to Schuster and Richtofen, who both had nothing to say. He continued. Neither does Dr. Porter, one of his closest friends. But I know where he is. He is en route to Berlin to discuss this deal as we speak. Dr. Schuster questioned Dr. Groff. And how did you come to that conclusion? I found Dr. Maxis in his office before he left Ariza. I wanted to discuss today's findings as I do every day before lunch. But he seemed rather dismissive today. Stressed even. He was reading a peculiar letter before he sent me away. After he left, I entered his office and Schuster cut him off. You raided his office and looked through his belongings. Is that what I'm hearing? Richtofen added. And how did you enter his office? Maxis keeps all administrative offices and laboratories under an electronic lock. Does he not? All of his passcodes are the same. His daughter's birthday. 051134. It was simple guesswork. Schuster was shocked at Groff's actions, while Richtofen remained interested. Very clever. Continue, Dr. Groff. On his desk I found the open letter and accompanying envelope. It bears a symbol you two may recognize. Dr. Groff removed the envelope and letter from his coat pocket, placing it on the table. The envelope was indeed addressed to Dr. Ludwig Maxis, and came directly from the Reichstag building. Dr. Schuster unfolded the letter, marked at the top with a symbol of an eagle carrying a swastika, the Parte Adler. Shocked, Schuster muttered, No, it can't be. Edward, this is an official seal. Edward examined the envelope, reading the German text through. Dr. Ludwig Maxis, we have observed Group 935's scientific achievements at the Giant since its inception, and there is no doubt that its successes are primarily due to your outstanding leadership and personal investment. Your actions have caught the attention of the Führer and members of the party, and we humbly present an opportunity for your organization that may benefit your scientists as well as our homeland. We will fund all of Group 935's future endeavors to ensure it stands as the crown jewel of scientific advancement in Germany, under the condition that Group 935 defers authority over projects to the National Socialist German Workers' Party during this time of world unrest. When military research is no longer required, Group 935 may return to independent research, under the supervision and funding of the party. We hold and will soon acquire many more valuable pieces of land, which Group 935 may utilize to create research stations across the world. The party has a particular vested interest in wonder weapons and other equipment that utilize Element 115 to be used by our troops. We have also examined the results of your testing with Element 115's ability to reanimate the dead. If these reanimated beings could be controlled, they could prove to be a great asset to our army, in some capacity. On the 23rd of November, a meeting will be held at the Kroll Opera House in Berlin to discuss Germany's goals and the protection of our people. You would be honored if you could join the meeting as a revered scientist and member of the German community. When you arrive, General Lemkuhl will inform you of what Group 935 can do to assist Germany's efforts. Signed, Martin Bormann, Secretary to the Deputy Führer. The letter was indeed official. This collaboration could change everything the entire organization stood for. And worse yet, it may interfere with the motives of the Illuminati. Edward could not have predicted this sudden change in Group 935's leadership. The eyes of the party scrutinizing Richtofen's every move,
he may never be able to satisfy the order and the desire for Group 935's research. A single world power being in possession of this research could slow the Illuminati's efforts in creating a new, peaceful world order of their own design. Unless, of course, this was all part of their plan. Groff spoke, smug with righteousness. You see, I was correct in my suspicions. You will come to find that I am right about a great many things. Perhaps you see now that Maxis is not the great leader Group 935 deserves. Schuster began to panic. This organization was founded by a coalition of scientists from all over the world. What will become of our work once the news is made public? The Nazis will twist our research for their own agenda. Can you believe Maxis would do such a thing, Edward? I cannot. Our research should not be controlled by any world government. It appears Dr. Maxis has become desperate. When desperate men make foolish decisions. This changes everything. Richtofen pondered what action to take next to ensure the preservation of progress he had made. Dr. Schuster, we must perfect our research on the matter transference device as soon as possible, before Maxis diverts what little funding we have left into weapons for the Wehrmacht. Agreed, Dr. Richtofen. We should finish our lunch in the lab and begin testing again. Dr. Richtofen and Dr. Schuster rose from their seats and headed towards the labs, leaving Dr. Groff to finish his meal alone. As the two exited into the courtyard towards the laboratories, Richtofen turned to Schuster, asking, Dr. Schuster, do you remember what's your research on, what are they called? Perky-colas? Yes, those. Do you remember where you kept that research? I believe I stored it in Laboratory A6. Why do you ask? We should know where your hard work was last seen, in the event Maxis decides to pawn it off to the Reichstag, should we not? Surely Maxis would not do something so cutthroat. These are uncertain times, my friend. I'm afraid Maxis has changed over the past year. We must be expecting the unexpected. About those Perkovatsits, did that young scientist you were working with come up with that ridiculous name? Oh, well, actually it was my idea. I believe the concoctions could be mass-produced for the general public to drink someday. Once the 115's adverse side effects are stifled, of course. How quaint. Anyhow, I must send a quick telegram out before we can continue work on the MTD. Set up the test chamber-owned workstation, would you kindly? Yes, Doctor. Who is the telegram for? Just the little book club I'm in. I have to let them know I won't be attending the meeting this week. They must know.